And now I will introduce to our panelists. This panel will be conducted by Mr. Joaquín Villarino. He is the chairman of the Mining Council, Presidente del Consejo Minero. He will be conducting this panel. And just also for you to know or to realize, always in the past when we organized these panels on mining, it was a big challenge to have at least one woman in the panel, because this used to be a very men-focused industry. And now we have the situation where we have asked a man to be the panelist because all the panelists were women. So that's a new trend that we are showing of the mining industry in Chile. So we would like to welcome Soledad Jeria. She is the country head of Rio Tinto. We also want to welcome Gina Ocqueteau, chairman of SQM, and Cristina Bruce, senior vice president of sustainability and social impact of Anglo American. And as a moderator, we welcome Mr. Joaquín Villarino. There was no applause to Mr. Villarino.
Well, thank you very much for being here. As you know, the mining activity is a hard one. It's almost as hard as conduct a panel after lunch. So we will make our best efforts in order to enjoy this conversation with these three leaders in the mining sector, Cristina, Soledad, and Gina. And thank you, of course, all of you to being here. And for decades, Chile has been a global leader in copper, lithium, and other critical minerals production and reserves, a role that has been fundamental on the nation's development. The numbers speak by themselves. Mining represents 57% of our exports. It's responsible for 22% of the GDP contribution, including the productive value chain. It attracts 19% of the country's investment. It accounts for almost 12% of direct and indirect employment, and it constitutes 7% of fiscal revenue. However, the world is changing rapidly, and so is the mining industry. Today, we're not only facing the challenge of meeting an ever-increasing global demand of copper, lithium, and other minerals, but also the urgent need to address critical environmental and social considerations. We need more mining, but in some cases, a different kind of mining. This panel brings together key executives from major multinational mining companies operating in Chile, all of them. They are at the forefront of implementing innovative strategies and technologies to ensure that the industry growth is sustainable, responsible, and beneficial for all stakeholders. We will explore how these leaders are tackling these complex challenges, from the adoption of clean energy and recycled water to fostering a stronger, more positive relationship with local communities. We will also delve into how this shift is changing public perception of mining in Chile, positioning it not just an economic powerhouse, but as a key partner in the country's sustainable development. Mining contribution to the progress of Chile is increasingly recognized and valued, due in part to the industry's sustained efforts in communication and transparency, of course. Trust in mining in our country is at its highest point, unlike much of the world where the sector is perceived with low level of public trust. We stand as the only nation where mining is viewed as a possible force for development, and it's also valued as the most attractive sector to work in Chile. Is it not a coincidence that this panel features a significant presence of women? Recent figures demonstrate that the mining sector has successfully begun to break with its long-standing tradition of overwhelmingly male workforce. Today, women represent 23.1% of our workforce in the large-scale mining companies in Chile, the highest level of female participation among mining industry worldwide. 10 years ago, it was 1 woman in between 11 men in the workforce. Nowadays, it's 1 in between 4. This achievement is the result of determination, leadership, and progressive policies. While there's still progress to be made, we have managed to triple female representation within a decade. And our ambition is to continue advancing at an even faster pace. Well, let's begin our panel. We will talk about 3 main topics: sustainable operations, productivity, innovation, and technology, and community social license and perception. In a world where we see that sometimes people is saying that the ESG standards are backing up or going back, we see a sector like the mining sector leading the implementation of those standards with pride, with success, with big challenges. We will see how we're dealing with that in these 3 important companies. Thank you very much. Well, we have an interesting challenge here, and let's begin with you, Soledad. The first topic to tackle is there is a kind of global push for decarbonization, and clean energy is putting pressure in all industry. In addition, the mining sector faces a kind of double challenge to provide the critical minerals and the world needs and in its transits into a cleaner future, and at the same time produce them with a lower footprint. From your point of view, do you believe at this time that the growing and social environmental demands pose an opportunity to reclaim an ESG-driven approach to asset management? How is Rio Tinto dealing with these issues worldwide and specifically in Chile?
Sure. Well, good afternoon to everybody. Thank you very much for the invitation. I would say that yes, technology is driving ESG standards, or the other way around as well. So once upon a time, we miners were focused in developing technology for productivity, to be efficient. But right now, technology has been mainly driven by decreasing our environmental footprint, by decreasing our impact to our communities, by decreasing as much as possible our footprint in the places that we operate. And with that, we have a couple of examples in Rio. One of them very key in this panel around the DLE, the direct lithium extraction technology that we have and that we're bringing in the 2 joint ventures that we just closed with in Chile, one with Codelco and the other one with Enami. We have more than 28 years of experience operating DLE in Argentina, and that not only increases the productivity of the lithium operations, but it also sustainably impacts the footprint of lithium extraction. Again, I think when we talk about ESG, we usually talk about environmental impact, about community impact, but sustainability is way more over than that. And let me touch a point here. I think in Chile, we've done a spectacular job bringing technology in, using diesel watering operations, using renewable energies, but I think we still have a pending. We have a pending in the Tier 2 and the Tier 3 assets. When all of this infrastructure and all of these technologies, they don't do the economics. And it's just because the ore reserves are not good enough. But the thing is that if we think outside the box and we try to make this as sustainable as possible, sharing infrastructure becomes a solution. And I think we really need to think about that, because this is not, again, bringing new technologies. It's building a real sustainable business. And I think with this, again, in Chile, we have that pending that pending work. We've done an incredible job in Tier 1 assets. We have very good resources, but now in order to unlock those other reserves that the world needs for the energy transition, we really need to take collaboration and sharing infrastructure very seriously, because that's another way and the new way of making all of this business more sustainable.
Thank you, Soledad. Gina, well, congratulations for being the new president of SQM, extraordinary position and very responsible at this time. And be as a member of the board, I would like to listen from you. What is the specific role that should a board of directors play in accelerating the integration of sustainability into corporate strategy? And how does this translate in its relationship with executive teams?
Hoy, gracias. Voy a hablar en español para los periodistas que están atrás. Y para explicar también en lo que estamos en un momento muy crucial. Doy gracias por este panel que siempre me toca, no siempre con mujeres, así que gracias Joaquín por haberlo también convocado y a todos los organizadores, porque tener esta audiencia de verdad que nos inspira a las tres. Y a propósito de mi asiento, hoy día en SQM, que es parte de los pilares, incluso antes que yo entrara, hace más de 3 años, en la estrategia está la sostenibilidad. O sea, y esto no es una invitación o algo por quedar bien. Hoy día que están los temas de ESG con tanta controversia, a nosotros nada más que nos respalda y nos asegura la continuidad absoluta de estar en la minería, en algo que es extractivo, pero cómo le devolvemos a la comunidad y también a todos los chilenos lo que pasa con los salares. Tenemos el mejor sol del mundo en el norte, el mejor cielo, los mejores vientos y también los mejores salares. Cuidarlo está dentro de nuestro propósito, eso es día a día, eso no es por quedar bien, esto se mide. Y hay plataformas hoy día que uno puede rastrear cómo se está haciendo, y eso es de público para todos. ¿Ya? En Salar de Atacama, la extracción de salmuera se ha reducido en un 32%, y eso es, o sea, día a día y se mide. Y déjenme compartirles algo que de verdad fue también algo sorprendente a propósito de la visita de los reyes de Bélgica, a los cuales yo acompañé. Hay una plataforma belga que ellos disponibilizan y que SQM la compró, y que va marcando justamente el consumo del agua en un dashboard bastante complejo, y la reina se acerca a una trabajadora que es del norte, que estudió en la Universidad Católica del Norte, que se ha formado en SQM y que explicó justamente todos estos red flags que aparecen frente a cambios del consumo y de la extracción de la salmuera. Y eso es un ejemplo tangible de que la sostenibilidad no solo va con KPI de consumo de agua, de temas de huella de carbono y de metas que nos vamos poniendo y que se ven muy bien en un reporte de sostenibilidad o en una memoria integrada, sino que tiene que ver también con la preocupación de las comunidades, de las personas, del mundo corporativo y de donde estamos inmersos. La tecnología claramente nos ha ayudado, hoy día nos tiene a todos aquí y a todo el mundo dado vuelta con temas de inteligencia artificial, superinteligencia artificial, la cual nosotros también levantando un fondo muy importante disponible para startups y para distintos oferentes que puedan justamente ayudarnos a hacer el mejor litio y el más sustentable del mundo, que hoy día sí lo es.
Great. Just a few words about what Gina have said. Is sustainability is one of the pillars in SQM, and this is demonstrated not just because the policy that they had in general terms, but also it's been demonstrated by the shortage of water consuming in order to produce more lithium with less water. And it's recognized in a public platform, and it's recognized by the communities, and it's part of the whole team work that works in SQM. We have to recognize as Chilean that the work that SQM have been done and developed during the last years really represent a huge change in sustainability policy in Chile, and congratulations for that, Gina. In the case of Anglo America, nice to have this conversation with you again. We have been working together for a long time. Anglo is a foreign investor in Chile for I don't know for how many years, for a long time. And talking about sustainability, we as Chilean also have a kind of first question around sustainability. Are the standards that Anglo America apply in Chile in terms of sustainability the same ones that you will find in other places where you develop mining? In some cases, you can hear from Chileans that the mining activity in Chile in terms of sustainability is a kind of second-class sustainability. I know that it's not, but I would love to hear from you, your experience. Anglo America controls one of the largest copper sites in Chile that is based in the head of Santiago. So the challenges are huge in that case. So I would love to hear from you. Are the standards the same one that you will find in other parts of the world? Which are your main concerns from the sustainability point of view in your investment in Chile?
Thanks, Joaquín. I'm hoping that there are people not in mining in this audience. That would be a big win, yay. And it can't only be men that work in mining, because mining is an amazing industry to work in. And so we can't leave it just to the men. So it is great to be sitting here. It's wonderful to see Joaquín. Before I did the role on the screen, I was in our business in Chile for 2 years, and so it's also wonderful to see familiar faces. On your comment about backtracking on ESG themes, Joaquín, you asked us to mention that. I think regardless of what you read in some of the newspapers today, the reality of mining is that our investors want us to be successful businesses. And that means that we need to be strong, we need to be financially successful, and we need to last over many, many decades. And that's what ESG does for the mining industry. Without high ESG standards, we cannot be what the markets need us to be. And so regardless of what we might be seeing in terms of high trends in certain newspapers, I think the reality on the ground is that we, and certainly Anglo-American, need to incorporate sustainability into the day-to-day of our decision-making planning, how we run our mines, and how we engage with our communities. So what does that mean for standards? I think the benefit of being a diversified global mining company is you can have a dual approach. So yes, in any country that we operate, we have to abide by local regulation, and that is as much the case in Chile as in any other country. But we can bring a wealth of experience and also global standards. So in Anglo, we have a series of ambitions and metrics that need to apply to all of our operations. They change as you go down into the details of each operation, but the standards are the same. Would be my first reply. My second one would be that because Chile is so in its heart a mining country, we're under immense pressure in Chile to keep those standards high, because otherwise we can't sustain our operations. And so investing in, for example, educational programs in areas that we identify are important in Chile. You will know better than I just how important education is in Chile. So we as a company, what can we do to contribute to that? You identify we're very much in just outside la región metropolitana. And so those are the kinds of topics that we can focus on.
Great. Sometimes it's hard for people that is not really close to the mining sector and explain to them how we're dealing with the challenges that sustainability are on our head, and an extraordinary work that has been developed by the mining companies in Chile sometimes has not the real information in communities. Well, this is something that is changing, and for that reason is the quite good qualification and perception that we have nowadays in Chile for the mining sector. I think that the other area where we have a huge challenge is productivity. The last study made by, it was done by the National Commission de Productivity and Evaluation Commission, demonstrate that when we compare the copper industry around the world, Chile with Australia, Canada, United States, even Peru, we were not in a pretty good position. And it has some reasons about that. In some cases, it's the legislation and the rules of the mining sector. Well, the finance minister explained that it was one of our headaches in our country. In other cases, just the workforce productivity. In other cases are, of course, the social and environmental, the age of our sites. We are having low ore grades and those things. So, and on the other hand, when we analyze the impact or the amount of money that the mining sector invests in innovation and technology, that is the way to solve those challenges, it seems that the mining sector is not investing too much. I know which is the reason, but I would love to listen from you. What are you doing, or what your companies are doing related to increase productivity in the scenario that we are facing right now? The world needs more minerals. The increase in the copper and lithium demand, it's tremendous for the following years. And so, but on the other hand, the world is requiring to a cleaner production. So how are the companies, like yours companies, dealing with these challenges nowadays?
Do you want me to start?
Yeah.
Yep, sure. So productivity is just one of the challenges, and I guess, and I totally agree, when it gets to invest in R&D for the mining industry, it is difficult. We're a high capex industry, so whenever you make R&D compete with that, we struggle. We struggle because we've already invested billions of dollars to maintain operations. So when the project comes in, it's like, let's go for commercial deployment, and that means that we need to put another 100 or $150 million. It's not an easy decision at all. I think we need to do better. Yes, definitely. But I think here one of the key things in order to solve this is to work jointly. Because at the end of the day, we're all having the same problem. At the end of the day, we're all looking for very similar solutions. And when you divide, this is when divide and conquer actually works. Because again, the numbers in mining are way too big. And especially when you see all of this pipeline coming ahead. In Chile, we talk about $85 billion. All of us have huge investments coming ahead. So then productivity plays a key issue. Here in Rio Tinto, I think Rio Tinto has always had that commitment of being very technology and innovation driven. Once upon a time, back in 2008, we took the decision and the commitment to be the first mining company, to have an automated operation in Pilbara. And we did. We were the first ones. Right now, we keep on innovating. Just mentioned about the DLE, around the lithium production. We have a technology for advanced leaching technology called Newton, which increases the productivity and the recovery from 40 to 45% to over 80%, which is great. And even in the future, you could even think that that could compete to a concentrator, which doesn't only work on the productivity, but again, as I previously said, it has a huge impact in our environmental footprint. So I guess here, collaboration for me here is key, trying to work together as much as possible, because we all also understand that we miners, we love our IP, we love having our independence and not sharing it with everybody, but there's going to be a point that we're actually going to be liberate ourselves from that. We're working on that, but as I said before, I think it's interesting to see that right now, productivity is also driven by technology and ESG. At the end of the day, you're looking for a dual benefit for all of that.
Well, talking about collaboration, I think that there are some good examples of collaboration in the mining sector in Chile. there was a project, interesting one, led by Altalay, that had been developing a kind of central system that helps in cybersecurity, and all the companies are working together behind that. And there are other good examples around that. So I totally agree with you that collaboration is one of the ways that we could work in order to introduce more innovation and new technologies. We know there are a lot of technologies available for the mining sector. In some cases, it's a matter of skills in the market. In other cases, is who's the first, you know?
The good thing of collaboration as well is that at the end of the day, it also liberates capital.
Yeah.
Because if we share the risk, if we share the investment, if we share the R&D, it liberates capital for additional technology, additional innovation.
Well, you know, in the case of FQM and the lithium market, when we see the current prices and we compare them with the prices that we saw 2 years ago, we realize that productivity should be a huge challenge. And we know that in case of Chile, the Atacama ChileDay it has an extraordinary conditions to be very competitive. And in the case of SQM, it's worldwide known that the technology that they've been applied and developed by themselves is on the head of the market. So from SQM point of view, in this high international visibility market as the lithium, what innovations and practices are making a real difference in advancing sustainability and productivity?
Gran desafío y ya aplicado y planificado. Hoy día lidiar con cambio climático, todos antes hasta yo era escéptica y uno va al norte y a veces llueve y a veces hay hasta granizo, como hace un par de meses. Es algo que hay que contemplar, ser más productivo, cómo uno lo hace. Y justamente tenemos muchos proyectos adentro y uno ya a puertas de salir que se llama Salar Futuro y que tiene que ver justamente con la cooperación tecnológica para vaporizar distinto, para nanofiltraciones y para extracción directa del litio, que contempla una serie de cambios que hace que podamos llegar a las producciones que la electromovilidad hoy día requiere. O sea, hace un par de años producir 40.000 toneladas ya era un desafío y hoy día llegar este año a 230.000 toneladas del mismo litio mejorado, refinado, es algo que se está logrando justamente por tecnología. Producir con personas además capacitadas que entiendan que esto va en la mejora de ellos y también de lo que significa el gran aporte al mundo de un litio de mejor calidad que va directamente a la batería, ha hecho que tantos aquí como muchos nos tocan las puertas para ver cómo lo podemos hacer mejor. Y nosotros tenemos siempre las puertas abiertas para acoger tecnología no solo de chilenos, sino que también de distintas partes del mundo, que ha traducido justamente en llegar a esas metas que eran, cuando yo entré hace un par de años, no, los números eran mucho menos, así es que claramente algo que está aquí, a pasos de uno, si uno lo evalúa y apuesta por invertir en eso, trae los resultados que tenemos.
Well, I think that Gina, it's very well known that the technology that has been developed by SQM is an extraordinary one. The challenge, the main challenge that they are facing is how, by extracting the same amount of material, they can produce more lithium. This is a technical thing that I will not try to explain, of course. But the thing is, they need to use less water, they need to extract the same amount of material from the salt, and they need to produce more lithium without the same material. That is a huge challenge. There is a lot of pressure in order to produce more lithium, and they're obtaining those results. And this is extraordinary, and not by increasing the production cost. And because with the current prices, the part of the lithium industry that will survive is the one that can be competitive, and is I think is the case of SQM. Well, in the case of Anglo, I think that we have seen in Chile one of the innovation that, in a certain way, make us very proud, the mining sector, and it is the integrated operation centers. I mean, when you visit those places, you cannot imagine that you are in the middle, in the heart of the mining sector. It seems that you are part of a kind of other kind of industry, not mining sector, especially with the mining sector that in general terms people has in their mind. But could you tell us a little bit about these integrated operation centers and what does mean and what kind of technology are they using, which is the impact in productivity? Was it easy or not easy to find the skills in people in Chile in order to operate this kind of facilities?
Thanks, Joaquín. I'm going to talk about two technologies that we are involved in. What Joaquín is referring to, we refer to as the IROC, and it's basically a remote operating center that we have in the 47th floor of our building in Santiago, and it remote controls key parts of our mine in Los Bronces, and then also has a digital twin in place, which means that we can also monitor and plan the mine better. Increases in productivity are around efficiency, efficiency in terms of tracking, evaluation, being able to predict errors and faults more quickly, or potential errors and faults more quickly. But then also it really helps the fact that this is a 24-hour operation, so the IROC is operating 24 hours. It is an amazing thing to see. As Soledad mentioned, it is in Chile, but it's not something that hasn't been done elsewhere, and that is done in other mining companies in other jurisdictions. So perhaps if I take a moment or two to describe a technology that is completely new. One of the challenges that we have in the mining industry is that certainly in copper, but also in other types of mining, the byproduct of processing is a material called tailings. It's like very wet talcum powder. That's as far as my engineering degree goes. But the point is that it contains a lot of water. It requires water, and it is then retained in dams that need to be managed for decades. And so addressing the tailings challenge in mining is a really key, both for Anglo-American and for the sector. So we are in partnership with academics, talking about partnership, have developed a technology which is called hydraulic dewatered HDS storage. And what it does is it finds a way of dewatering the tailings and then stacking it so that we can filter out the remaining water, and instead of creating a dam, creating usable land. So usable land that can then have other purposes and that can be rehabilitated. We're piloting it at El Soldado, which is one of our mines in Chile. It's been really successful, and we intend to try and share it, and are in conversations to share it with other appropriate mines, with other mining companies.
Just great. Let's go for the third topic, and this is communities. Communities, what a challenge. And in your cases, you are facing different kind of communities. In the case of Anglo-American, it has a very complicated community, it's Santiago. So we sometimes we do not imagine that we have that kind of site nearby by Santiago, and it's a huge challenge. In the case of SQM, what we're facing is Salar, the Salar, Atacama Salar, where the indigenous communities are a total different community with a different kind of organization. Sometimes is what I have heard is very complicated to organize them and to have, and you will face in your new projects, and that will be the last question. This is not the last one, the last question. You will face a huge challenge with your new communities in the salas where you're going to develop the lithium projects with Codelco and Enami. So talking about that, what are your first approach In your case, with the project that are going to be developed in a near time, you are not near the beginning. You are closing the deal. So, what are you thinking? What is in your mind? What are you going to do? How is the community organized in those places? And then I'm going to go with a question for you.
So community relationship, community engagement has evolved in the last 20 years from one side to the pendulum to the other. I think this is a totally different reality of what we had 20 or 25 years ago. I think the mining industry has understood, as followers of the reserves, that we operate and we extract minerals in lands of others. And with that we need to respect and we need to engage properly and understand what are the rules of where we actually land or where we actually want to operate. So I would say in that context, I think Rio Tinto, after a lot of ups and downs, there's no need to go into details, we've taken it very seriously, and I think we make our best effort every single day to be very connected to the communities, to engage as much as possible, to listen, which is not an easy task. It's not easy to listen. We all say we listen, but it's not easy to listen. And to work together with the communities. Initially, the engagement, as I said, were very much on following what was our environmental impact, but right now, that challenge has evolved. We need to work with the communities. In Australia, for example, we're not only just have educational programs where we operate, but we're actually very focused on bringing those communities to work in our companies in higher management positions, which is very different because usually we try to get them in as suppliers or as operators, but we've taken that next step to actually make them part of our management positions, which is huge and which is great. Going back into those projects that we're going to kick off here in Chile, one of the benefits, community-wise speaking, is that the 3 projects that we will kick off are very close by. We share communities and we have an opportunity there. So hopefully we will be able to have one conversation and not 3 separate conversations, because that happens a lot as well, and it happens between mining companies. We operate in very similar territories and we all replicate our engagements and our initiatives in education and infrastructure. So I think here Rio has a huge opportunity of actually engaging with the community as a whole. We actually not only share the communities here in Chile, but also over to Argentina. So very much looking forward on what's going to be the next chapter of Rio and the community.
I cannot imagine how complicated are Argentina's indigenous people. I mean, if the Chileans has their challenges, I mean, they're also Argentinians. I mean, well, in the case of SQM, it's a long story. It's a long story with communities in that area. Successfully story. Let me say that. And from this extensive experience working with local communities from Salar de Atacama, what have been your strategies in local development for successful engagement with these particular stakeholders?
Es un trabajo de verdad maravilloso, y no es por quedar bien. Cuando se lleva décadas, se crea confianza. Cuando hay proyectos concretos que se traducen en realidades, como que una mujer, en vez de hacer un chaleco, un suéter, al día pueda producir una cantidad importante y no depender de entregas, si bien es cierto, el acuerdo que tenemos nosotros, que es público-privado y que es una alianza que ha sido fantástica, y en ese acuerdo se lleva que el 1,7% de las ventas del litio tiene que quedar en la región de Atacama, en la cual se trabaja en proyectos de educación, en proyectos de salud y también con los municipios, hace que la gente confíe, nos ha conocido por años. La gente del norte, hay pueblos ancestrales y las comunidades que son más de 20, aquí nuestro querido vicepresidente Corfo las ha vivido y ha visitado, que son gente muy distinta. Uno los puede poner a todos como en el mismo grupo, pero la gente del sur, como se llaman ellos, con los pueblos del norte, se sienten totalmente distintos. También hay una competencia, entre comillas, de quién tiene más recursos, y es que totalmente posible y genuina, porque ellos aman su tierra, han seguido viviendo ahí, y nosotros hemos trabajado por años, por ejemplo, con un programa dental, que uno podría decir, un programa de salud, anda un truck, un camión, visitando, pero visitan toda la región y se llevan años haciendo programas dentales en que le cambió no solo ponerle un par de dientes a la gente que no tiene acceso o que tiene una lista de espera gigante, sino que le cambia su forma de trabajar, de vivir, de presentarse a los trabajos, y esto ha sido continuo, no ha sido por una vez. Aquí los programas se hacen en forma permanente, esté el litio aquí o esté el litio en precios más bajos. Y para qué decir algo que a lo mejor podemos al cierre contar de este posible gran acuerdo, tiene que ver con las consultas a ellos, que apenas el presidente Boric saca la carta, nosotros fuimos de inmediato porque nos empezaron a llamar a los celulares. Yo tengo relación con las comunidades y tienen mi teléfono y el teléfono de muchos directores, y para qué decir de la gente administrativa, y nos pidieron, por favor, cuéntenos con detalles, porque nosotros confiamos en SQM. Lo escuché en un panel abierto, en una reunión abierta donde había más de 100 personas, que de verdad que eso hace que como ha habido coherencia, ha habido consistencia y ha habido adhesividad hacia nosotros.
Well, I think, Gina, that you put three important pillars in the relationship with communities: the long-term work. The second one is, of course, when you, and it's something that it was part of the new royalty for the copper industry, something that it was part of the lithium royalty, that is part of the resources that come from those royalties. Stay in the region, and that is very important. It's create a stronger link in between the industry and with the communities. And well, the second challenge is how do they spend that money? And when you are close into them and working with a long-term view, that is great. And building on trust, building trust with them, I think, are the three pillars. Well, in the case of Anglo, the situation is totally different, even though in the Atacama Salar, there is no just one community, as Gina mentioned. There are many communities, and there are some competitiveness among them. In the case of Anglo, you have a huge community, and so it's a total different approach. You need to define which is the main objective of your policy, where are you going to develop it. It's a kind of sea with no limits if you try to solve the social demands of the whole Santiago. Well, when Los Bronces was approved, that is one of the measures that is part of the approval. It's something incredible that, of course, in your hands to tell us about.
In your introduction, Joaquín, you gave these big statistics about the financial value that mining brings. And then we heard about listening, and we heard about a dental program in the Atacama. And I think for me, the lesson I want to share with you is that community members, wherever they are, need to feel the benefit of those big numbers. And the reality is that those big numbers feel very far away, even if you have shared royalty schemes and even if you are in the perfect government system with perfect government services. And so it's where the listening comes in. How do we as companies, of course, make our contribution through royalty and through all the relevant taxes and contributions that we need to pay through employment, but also really listen to the people around our mines, impacted by our presence, and understand what is important to them, what do they value, and incorporate it into our behaviors and into our planning so that we can be sustainable. And so that is when first time I hear of your dental program, but that is when those kinds of things come into play. Because if that's what's really important, I mentioned education, if that's what people really care about, then that is the way I think we add to those macro numbers. And so, yes, Los Bronces is just outside Santiago. And we have our immediate communities, and we have very close engagement with them. They are impacted by our transit up to the mine every day. And we've had to put a range of programs in place to improve our presence and our sense of being a good neighbor. But then we also have the metropolitan region. And so in 2023, when our big growth project for Los Bronces, which we call Los Bronces Proyecto Integrado, was approved, part of that was going through a very careful consultation exercise with all impacted communities to really identify what would make our appeal successful, what did people really care about here, and how could we as a company respond? Many of you know Santiago well. Air quality is a significant challenge, and there are very strong government programs to improve air quality, but there is a piece left that government programs weren't going to manage to hit. And so we committed to a program over 7 years. We will seek to work with NLX to replace wood-burning stoves in people's homes. So we will seek to work with families, with NLX, with community engagement teams. There are 56,000 wood-burning stoves, which we will aim to change in 7 years. It's a measure that means that we can compensate the emissions of the construction of our project. The legal requirement is 120%. We will compensate 150% of our emissions through this program. So it's an ambitious program. I think it's got lessons around learning. It is the challenge of how do you have a city benefit from your presence, and we've just launched it. So it's exciting.
An extraordinary measure, just extraordinary. The impact that we will have in the Santiago's communities is really extraordinary. Let me finish this panel. We have 10 minutes. I will divide it 3 minutes for each of you, in order to tackle some news that in the past few months and days we have heard related to Anglo, Rio, and SQM. So let's begin with Anglo. The recently announcement that Anglo will merge with Teck and will bring that merger the significant benefits for both companies, and specifically there is a clear scenario for benefits in Chile. We would love to hear about that. Congratulations, because it's a great news for the mining sector, and the market had received it happily and with a very good reaction. So we would love to hear about that.
It is very exciting news and big. You need to talk to my husband. We need to talk to my husband. No, I won't say that. I won't compare Venezuela and Vancouver as places to live. So yes, this is huge news for Anglo, for Teck, and then also for the mining sector. So we announced last week what will be a merger of equals. The two companies will come together. We will remain listed in primary listing here in the UK. Our international headquarters will be in Vancouver. And we will seek to retain the Anglo-American listing in Joburg, which will stretch across Toronto and then New York. It is a really rare opportunity to bring together two companies that share a focus on operational excellence, share a focus on sustainability. We are both very active members in the ICMM, and we will really be an even stronger player in the copper market going forward, as well as iron ore, zinc, and then we will retain our growth project in the UK. Anglo's footprint is in Southern Africa, Latin America, as you know, and we have projects in Finland and the UK. The Anglo tech will also add to that North America, Mexico, in North America, and Canada. So this is super exciting. It has multiple hurdles to go through still. So both sets of shareholders will need to approve in the coming months. And then there are 10 country jurisdictional approvals that we need to go through. So you're looking at 12 to 18 months approval time.
So clearly it's a huge operation, an important one for the mining sector. A huge opportunity for lawyers as well, you know. In the following 12 months, they're going to be very happy. A couple of them, you know. So, in the case of SQM, I mean, it's a clear question. I mean, from your point of view, I know that you are almost there. You're almost in the line. You are closing this agreement with Codelco for the future operation in Salar de Atacama, and we would love to hear from you which are the exact benefits for the country, for SQM, for Codelco.
Es que esto no es solo bueno para
Be careful,
SQM, Codelco, esto es bueno para Chile.
Yes.
Esto de verdad que lo conversaba con el ministro de Hacienda anoche y esto va a ser la noticia mejor de la década, de verdad. Hoy día, en este minuto, se está haciendo una reunión justamente para aprobar los contratos. Bueno, ya una parte ya está lista de la consulta indígena, lo que significó un trabajo, pero único. Yo creo que Corfo jamás pensó que le iba a tocar un trabajo así en este gobierno y que ha sido un trabajo que a toda luz era muy difícil de lograr. O sea, por mucho que la gente se aparecía en el norte, habían diferencias muy, muy grandes y haber conversado y haber llegado a acuerdos de lo que significa, la verdad, un posible acuerdo que está a las puertas y esperamos que antes de fin de año afirmarse, ha sido algo único. La consulta indígena ya está check, que era algo complejo, como decía anteriormente. Hoy día nos falta algo en China y pasando ese requerimiento, antes de fin de año pensamos que se puede firmar. Y esto significa para Chile una cantidad de recursos y por otro lado posicionarnos como el productor de litio más sustentable del mundo con unas toneladas que no eran esperadas. Si se hubiera hecho una licitación, y yo creo que por ahí también puede ser un aporte, esto no es de la noche a la mañana. Dejo abierto el que quiera acercarse a mí y pasarle un video nuevo que tengo, así hecho el viernes, que está en un inglés y español perfecto, que muestra lo que significa tener hasta una bodega de $1.100 millones, la bodega más grande y la planta más grande de litio del mundo. No es de la noche a la mañana. Y aprovechar también para nosotros, Codelco, con el posicionamiento mundial que tiene, con un expertise y un management único en otro metal y una red comercial gigante, esto es win-win para todos. Así que esperamos que se concrete lo antes posible. El trabajo ha sido arduo de todos lados, de este gobierno, de SQM, de Codelco, de la cantidad de organizaciones que están detrás para plasmar algo que va a ser público, que es rastreable, que es sumamente transparente y que es de todos los chilenos.
Thank you very much, Gina. I think that we all know that it has been a very well-known deal in between Codelco and SQM. The discussions around it are very well-known as well. And I think that if you close it during the following month, it's going to be pretty good news, for Codelco, for SQM, and let's say for Chile as well. Yeah, okay. Rio Tinto. Well, Rio Tinto, you are the new jewel of the crown in the lithium arena. You are going to have a deal with Codelco and with Enami not happy with one, you take both of them
Of course.
in a pretty short time. So I cannot imagine your work that you have been done till now and the work that you have ahead. That's a challenge. I mean, I don't know how many people have been working in Rio Tinto until now, but you will multiply by 5 in a short period of time. I mean, with all of this project. But tell us a little bit about the future steps, which are the stage of both contracts, and maybe you're going to be the greatest competitor for SQM. I mean,
We're going to collaborate.
you're gonna share the shareholder. I don't know how you're going to manage that. Well, that is not my problem.
No, I think, well, let me start by, so Rio took a commitment on lithium, I would say 3 to 4 years ago, and it has been a very hectic journey since then. When we talk specifically about lithium, since then we started in our investment in Rincon in Argentina, started producing at the end of last year with the pilot plant. At the beginning of this year in March, we announced our buying Ocqueteau lithium, which positioned us as the 3rd producer of lithium in the world. And just a couple of months later, here in Chile, we had the announcement on Maricunga and later the Alto Santino. So you can imagine lithium in Rio at this point is making a lot of noise, and especially here in our office here in Chile. So Rio in Chile, and I would say Latin America, has been getting more active in the past 5 years. Before that, we were a bit dormant, which is very good news. I joined Rio 5 years ago, and I just couldn't understand how the 2nd biggest mining company was not in Chile. So 5 years later, seeing these 2 businesses in lithium and this other joint venture in copper, huge news for Rio. But as I always say, my Chilean heart is even happier than that. So what's coming ahead? Poof, a lot of challenges. We're in a closure process right now.
The amount of investment that we will see coming out of this project.
So the numbers, I don't want to get into specific on numbers, because at the end of the day, we need to understand that these are very early projects. We have an aspiration of actually hopefully producing more what has been informed, but that's just give us a bit of time. We need to get through those exploration campaigns. We need to get through those study phases. We're super thrilled. The 2 assets are very nearby. We see that we can capture a lot of synergies, and not only in Chile, also with our assets in Argentina. We have also an idea and an aspiration of a super hub of lithium, which will not only, again, help us capture that synergies, but will make us have assets and operations that will be able to operate and resist different market cycles, which is huge in the mining industry. So huge things happening ahead, specifically in the joint ventures that we've had here, exploration phases, study phases. Given that we're in closure, specifically, those JVs have not been constituted legally. However, as mentioned before, we're very committed to technology. So in parallel, we're developing our DLE, making the adjustments that are required for the brine that is in Maricunga, Wallis, and Salares Alto Andinos, and we're very committed as well into finding the solution of reinjection. As we all know, reinjection has not been solved right now for the lithium extraction. It has been used in the oil and gas industry for a lot of years. It's part of the process, but we're trying to adjust that for the lithium, and that would even get a better and increase our environmental footprint in that sense. So yeah, study phases, exploration coming so far, hopefully growing the Rio Tinto Chile office in the short term, and until the closure of the agreements are not done, we're very committed and very focused on the technology and the reinjection solution.
Well, we are right on time. Thank you very much to our panelists. Please give her a big applause. We're moving in an industry that is a keystone in the economic development of our country. We have our challenges, but we are working hard on it. Thank you very much again for being with us this afternoon.